now from Nashville. Didn't really record much of the beginning of the trip. I recorded a time lapse of the whole trip, so I'll probably play that. I'll tell the stories of everything. Got to Enterprise, ended up not really having any cars there for our choices. The only things they had available to put us in were pretty much a Jeep Compass and a Durango. And we were like, we're driving the tail of the Dragon. We don't want an SUV, we want a sedan. The guy luckily had a Mercedes CLA coming back from service. We're like, yeah, that's perfect, let's take it. And so far, it's been a really nice car. I'm really happy with it. So we got on the road, hit some traffic. We stopped at our first gas station in, what was it, Toledo, I believe. And then we stopped in Dayton for food. And then hit some traffic in Cincinnati, and that held us up for a good hour. We had a tee time in Lexington of 4:04, and we were shooting to make it for that, and our ETA on our phones was showing 3:59, and we hadn't even gotten dressed yet in clothes for golfing or anything, so wasn't really looking too hot, and I know we needed to stop for food and stuff too. So at some point we stopped for food, and I had the idea of maybe calling and asking if we could bump the tee time back. We bumped the tee time back, and then suddenly we started hitting a ton of rain. So we finally made it to the golf course. Especially rained out. Looks like there's no one really there. Get in, the guy's really nice at the counter. He's around our age, young 22-year-old. And the guy asks, what's the last name for the tee time you guys had for today? And I gave him Phil's last name, and he's like, you guys have a tee time for tomorrow. So the guy was like, that's okay, you guys drove all the way over here. Go ahead, we'll just give you a free bucket of range balls. And we were like, oh, that's cool, we can kind of bore them up. We haven't golfed. I hadn't even golfed yet this season. So we got out to the range, and I didn't even get my clubs set up yet, I don't think, because I was still trying to figure out where even the range markers were. I think just because where Phil picked a spot on the end, the rope happened to be along the backside of the stall, and when he took his very first swing, it grabbed the rope, and I just heard, oh, it was like, I just got conked in the head by that, I think by this little stake thing. And I was like, oh, you okay? Yeah, so then we kept swinging a little bit, and Phil didn't really seem like he was feeling too great, and he was like, dude, I feel like I'm sweating like crazy, and we look, and his hat's soaked right up here, and he's like, oh, I think I'm bleeding, and sure enough, it looked pretty bloody and stuff, so we decided that we probably should just go to urgent care to get it checked out. So we got to the urgent care. Phil got in pretty quickly, and they ended up wanting to put some staples in his head. Just to close up the wound, keep it closed, let it heal nice and good. And then we went to the hotel. You know, it was still a nice hotel, enjoyed it. Then we got back on the road in the morning, we got the breakfast, and then we headed towards Tail of the Dragon. And I'll probably go ahead and play that video now. It was a freaking amazing time. Very nice. Woohoo! Oh, the paddle shifters are so perfect for this. didn't like that one. What was that? I just saw some blue and white lights, I think. guess I'll just park up here.
Yeah, there's not.
Off-roading the Mercedes. Good thing it's a rental. Why'd you shift? of the Dragon. We had a tea time in, I think it was Old Hickory, so just outside Nashville. About 2-hour drive, 2.5-hour drive from Tail of the Dragon. So we went to, started that drive, had a lot of fun on that drive because we were kind of amped up from Tail of the Dragon a little bit. I have the time lapse of that drive as well. That was a lot of fun. It was actually really cool because there was a time change along the drive, which made it so we were able to stop in Nashville and actually see my cousin perform. My cousin Jason, just an amazing guy, just did an amazing job performing at Nudies, a bar, a honky-tonk bar in Nashville. So we had a ton of fun. Just, it was so cool to see Jason. He shouted out us a couple of times, which is really cool. And it was just cool to see my blood, my family up on stage performing, doing what he loves. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. I was so happy. So then we went straight from downtown Nashville to the golf course. Grabbed a couple of beers. We were the last ones on the course, which was really cool. Played all right. Didn't have anything eventful happen, so that was awesome. But we only had 2 hours to play. We didn't get the whole 9 holes in. Oh, it's whatever. And then once it started to turn dark, we decided to go check into the Best Western Hotel, get ready to go to downtown Nashville. We actually went to a really nice restaurant called, I believe, Gophers or something like that. It was a really, really nice restaurant. I had some lamb chops that were really good. Really enjoyed that. And then we went back to the hotel, got ready for Nashville. Actually ordered an Uber because I knew we would be drinking. Guy ended the fare, we were good to go. Went to the Barstool Bar. We stood up top for a while and just car watched. And, you know, we saw a guy in like a Fox Body Mustang that was pretty cool. Saw a couple of pretty nice cars, and it was really cool to just watch from up there. And then we could see Eric Church's bar from there, so we decided to go to Eric Church's Chiefs, and we ended up on the first floor for a little bit. Then we went to the roof, and that was actually really cool. Spent a long time on the roof because it was pretty tall. Got a lot of views. You could see Jelly Rolls. We could see Kid Rock's bar. It was all really cool. I got a lot of videos I'll probably slap in here over top of this. It was a lot of fun. I think we only went to 3 bars. I still can't remember the name of the 3rd bar we went to, if there was even one. Then we ordered the Uber. We were pretty tired after that. It was like midnight, and it seemed like Nashville was kind of starting to, like, some bars were starting to wind down and some bars were starting to close, and then some were not even affected. And Phil and I both were just tired from driving all day and everything, so we didn't want to spend too long in there. We walked across the pedestrian bridge and then ordered the Uber, so that way it was a little out of the city and we could get out of the city and not have to sit in too much traffic. And we ended up across the pedestrian bridge and had to walk a pretty decent distance to get to the actual pickup spot. But the guy actually came and picked us up like along the way, which is pretty cool. Jumped in the car, got us to the hotel, got back, and then we decided we want some food, so we walked to the nearest gas station and picked up some snacks. And then I got really tired along the way back, and as soon as we got back to the hotel, I pretty much passed out. Woke up, got Bob Evans this morning, and now we're driving back to Michigan. Looks like it's about a 7-hour drive left. ETA 810, 497 miles. Got 391 on the tank. Should be able to make a pretty good chunk. Need some water and maybe some snacks and probably a potty break here and there. But I'll probably time-lapse pretty much a good amount of it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.